Greetings, everyone. This is COnyegam. I am here to present my policy analysis topic on organ donation process. So today, as I speak to you, there are over 100,000 fellow citizens on the waiting list for an organ donation. And every 9 minutes, a new name is added to the list. Every single day in this country, 17 people die while on the list waiting for an organ transplant. The problem is that there are not enough organ donors who make organ donation process. Although about 90% of US population support organ donation, only about 60% are actually registered donors. Between January this year to September 9th, there were over 29,000 organ transplants performed in the US. There were only about 14,000 organs that were recovered. And within that same period, there were over 47 new names added to the list. So you can see the disproportionate demand versus supply of organs. The question becomes, what can we do? What can you as an individual do? Are you a registered donor? What can we do collectively? And I think that's what my policy analysis is, exploring options on what we can do to increase organ donation. Organ donation saves lives. I am a beneficiary of a heart transplant, and I know the value of organ donation. So about over 30,000 people are saved through organ donation each year. The U.S. Anatomical Gift Act is the legal foundation for organ donation in the United States, and it encourages the voluntary organ donation process that we have in the United States. It was passed in 1968 and adopted by all 50 states. It has been revised, and the 2006 revision has a conflict with another existing federal law, specifically the law that deals with advanced directives, and consequently, only about 26 states have adopted it. Each state has a process for individuals to register to become organ donors, and the most common process is where you go to your DMV and sign up to become an organ donor. You can also do online registration to become an organ donor. So if you have not signed up, please sign up to become an organ donor. The main source of organ donation in the US is through deceased donors. And there are some living donors specifically for kidney, but most of the organs that are used for transplantation in this country come from deceased donors. On average, there is a long waiting period for organs. For example, a heart, over 6 months, average waiting period. Kidney is 3 to 5 years, and for pancreas, about 2 years. I actually waited for a little bit over 2 years for heart transplant. Again, I'm one of the lucky one. I'm not one of the 17 people that die every single day. So I'm definitely very appreciative of the fact that I'm here today. Organs are matched by size, by urgency, geographic location, waiting period, and blood type. And in comparison to other countries, the US actually has a good organ donation rate. And that's partly because of the ban on organ sales. There are so many key stakeholders in the organ donation process. Of course, I want to recognize the donor, their family members, the medical team that handle organ donation process, the organ procurement organizations that work hand in hand with the hospitals to make organ donation process. The United Network of Organ Donors is a nonprofit organization that manages the organ donation process in the United States. They manage the waiting list, they maintain record of all transplants in the US, they monitor compliance for the organ matching system, which, by the way, is done via an electronic process, and they lead the network of hospitals and the organ procurement organizations. Organ donation is a complex process that has ethical, political, economic factors that influence it. So you can imagine some of the ethical dilemmas that could come up. I know we talked a lot in class about ethical dilemmas. I did mention one of them earlier, the conflict that existed between the revision of the law that guides all the organ donation process and an existing federal policy on advanced directives. So there are many more ethical dilemmas, as you would imagine. So there were years back, there were reports of issues with the organ donation process, and consequently, the president then, 2009, that was President Trump, signed an executive order to have the performance measure for the organ procurement organizations revised to not only monitor the number of organs that they actually procure, but the actual organs that are transplanted. So their performance now monitors the actual organs transplanted. Again, the reason for this is to conserve precious organs that are procured from people from wasting. So the hospitals have a whole lot of, they have a key role to play. Basically, the organ donation process starts in the hospital. So as a result of that, a lot of attention has been focused on trying to increase organ donation at the hospital level. And so we'll go through some of the things later on. Some options that have been proposed for organ donation have been incentive payment for people who sign up to become organ donors, and also payment to family members of organ donors. Another proposal is changing the current system that we have, an opt-in process where you sign up to become an organ donor, to an opt-out process where automatically everyone is an organ donor until you actually opt out of it. That's a lot of countries have an opt-out system, but in the US, we have an opt-in process. Development of standardized hospital policy has been one of the proposals, along with educational, public educational awareness to get people to understand the value and need for organ donation. Because hospitals play such a key role, my recommendation is actually centered on improving organ donation at the hospital level. And it begins with basically organ for hospitals forming a group, an interdisciplinary group that will go around and identify individuals that are eligible for organ donation. Because some of the key things that hospitals have to do is the timely identification of potential organ donors and then referring those individuals to the organ procurement hospital. So my recommendation centers on those. So if you have a team of people that go around and do a daily round on hospital patients who have potential organ donation, and then once a person is identified as meeting the criteria for organ donation, then automatically that referral will be made to organ procurement organization, who I also recommend that be part of this group that rounds. And I also recommend that hospitals have organ procurement organization embedded in their facilities. That way, once the identification of a potential donor is done, you already have the organ procurement organization right there. So it cuts out the referral process, which again takes time. Keep in mind, the organ donation process is a very time-sensitive process. And for example, a heart, once it's removed from a donor, it has to be transplanted into a recipient within 4 hours. A kidney is within 24 hours. So you can kind of see why time is of essence here. I also advocate for hospitals to explore electronic health system that automatically identify patients and do the referral as opposed to relying on manual process. Hospitals should also, again, I talked about having the organ procurement organizations within their hospital. Again, that is so key because again, it cuts out a lot of the delay in the process. And hospitals should establish a standardized hospital policy that has everything organ donation, including the timely identification, the referral process outlined in a manner that is clear for everyone, including, and it should be a collaborative effort with the hospital and the organ procurement organization and all of the other key players in the process. And then once this policy is established, hospital need to collaborate with the organ procurement organization to train every staff in the hospital on exactly what the expectations are. Again, remember, time is of essence. So it's very important that people understand exactly what their needs are. And then once the staff are trained and then the public is trained, again, you're going to have a combined effort that will help with organ donation. Thank you all very much. Hope you enjoyed this